Away we go.
Okay, so episode 17, part 2. I'm going to say what we're not going to say. Okay. Now, okay, what I mean is we're going to get away from the rabbit hole that we just went down, but I'm going to briefly say, okay, so I was wanting to say some things about comparing this to the way that people feel about the guy in the White House, but we're not going to go there. And I also was going to say some things about additional stuff that CK himself has said, but another big rabbit hole, we're not going to go down there. Where we are going to go with this one right now, and Steve's going to do the majority of the talking because I'm still wrapping my head around it. Not always. Sometimes I'll jump in.
You can't get a word in edgewise, dude.
Anyways, the point, before you take the point and run with it, is that we're going to talk about the, okay, we're going to only use this word once, shooter, pew pew guy, trying to get our head around who he was and or his motivations. Now, the thing is, we now know a fair amount about who he was. We don't know a heck of a lot about his motivations, but we're starting to get a picture, and that's what Steve was going to try and break down a little bit, because it is nothing close to what the right wing was trying to tell us initially.
Right.
And even once you start to understand it, it's confusing as all fuck, but it's worth trying to wrap your head around. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
It's surprising to some, not surprising to me, or at least plausible to me. And when this first happened, I was open to just about anything, pretty much. Like, this could be, because this guy poked so many, poked around in so many different areas and disturbed so many different people that, if it was coming from some, person that was radicalized far left into, to this kind of level, though this is pretty unique. It's very unique. But
could have been.
Right, but it could have been.
It doesn't look like it was now.
But doesn't look like it was now, but that could have happened because of how ramped up everything has gotten, how disturbing it's gotten to this at this point. Now that they're, coming into cities and threatening violence and all these other things. Which goes back to the hypocrisy of telling us to tone it down, when they've just been ramping it up for the last decade or 15 since Trump has got in office.
Random offshoot. Can I say something?
Sure.
And I guess this is apropos considering that your significant other is now in Chicago. It looks like they are changing their tune on Chicago and instead heading towards
really
Tennessee is the next spot that they're going to send troops and whatnot.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's what I last.
Wow, you got me all discombobulated.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably because Chicago's pushing back. And
I think that is why. But
who knows? But yeah, I have to go and think about that later. But look that up. Back to this guy, this kid. So, Tyler.
It was a kid. He was like what, 22 years old? 21, 22, something like that.
What's his name? Tyler. You might want to look it up. So I'm horrible with names. It's not that I'm just an idiot. I just don't know names. Well, I was an idiot sometimes. So here he is, this kid. He's in Utah. He's Mormon, obviously. It looks like they were gun nuts. There's images of his family on Facebook with, assault weapons and multiple weapons and different types of weapons. And he, was a hunter and all these other things. And, but let's just go to the speculation right off the bat. Like my initial thoughts were it could have been anyone. I did think that this person was probably trained because it was a 200-yard shot. I was in the military. That's not a short distance. It's not undoable, especially with a scope and a rifle. But yeah, it's a decent shot. It's pretty good. It's not gonna. Yeah, what's that kid's name?
I still haven't shown his name.
Just look. You can just. So he gets. So this it didn't. So I was thinking probably somebody trained or they got real lucky. But so he that was my initial thoughts. That okay, somebody probably knows what they're doing. If it was from 200 yards, like they're saying, but then as far as like what the motivation was and what's behind this, I was open to pretty much anything. So for a couple of days there, we didn't really know anything. Of course, people are going, you have from the right saying that it's got to be a radical left. We're going after him. There's this call for vengeance and murder.
There's Tyler James Robinson.
Yeah, Tyler Robinson. So
22 years old.
22. So I know it's Tyler. But anyways, so the right is obviously saying that he's a radical left and that we have to go after these people, and they're the ones who incited the violence, and that they're violent, even though there's nothing to back that up with, and everything to back up that they're violent, right? Which becomes the craziness here, because and of course on the left they're kind of trying to remain quiet, mostly for the most part, like on my part, because I'm like, I don't know, man, like this could be coming from anywhere. And then you have the conspiratists that are saying, oh yeah, well, it was Trump because of, and this is Assad because of he was speaking out against Israel. And then they're saying, well, he was talking about releasing the tape, so it could have been a hit, and this guy, whoever it is a
well, and the main reason to disbelieve that kind of conspiracy theory isn't because it sounds so crazy, because in some ways it doesn't. It's the fact that Trump's not that good at having a poker face. Let me put it that way. And he was, yeah.
Sometimes he does. He just gives himself away.
Right.
So you might be right. He might have just let it slip somewhere, and he did.
If that had happened, if that were the case,
right? So he let it slip about the elections.
Right, multiple times, which is
why I question it, because he said it that he cheated.
That he cheated, yeah.
So did Musk. So, anyways, there's something going on. I don't know. I can't prove anything. I don't want to say anything, but. Anyways, back to this. Yeah, I wasn't buying that I was like, man, but here's the weird thing though. It's plausible. This guy is so messed up.
It's plausible, but again,
give me a fact that my mind would say,
again though, Trump has a terrible poker face. He would have, right, it would have shown somehow if that was actually, right. In my opinion.
So when they catch this kid, right, and it turns out that he's born in Utah, raised Mormon, in a very Republican MAGA family, not just Republican, but MAGA.
In fact, I think it was his dad who turned him in.
Yeah, his dad turned him in. They're Christian right. I don't think he was actually part of this police force like they initially said.
Maybe not. Yeah, that
might not have been true. But anyways, yeah, here they are, just born and raised straight up there, right? So now, at least until 18, we know some of this kid's history, 18, 19. That he was certainly, the first time he voted, he registered independent, but speculation is, or that he didn't vote or something like that. I don't know. I don't know the full story, so I'm not going to say stuff I don't know for sure. But what we do know is that was his background. This gun.
But there was basically nothing indicating a left-leaning ideology whatsoever.
Nothing, right? So what happens to him next that we do know as a fact? That he goes to college, which he drops out. And I believe it was some university there in Utah. And I believe he dropped out in the first semester.
Less than a year, maybe.
Yeah. And that some say within a month. But once again, this is what I'm hearing. And I believe this is probably, you can look this up and talk to the university. And I think this is factual. So we know that happened, right? So he didn't get radicalized in school, and even if he did go to school there, from what I understand, this is like Texas A&M. You're not going to get radicalized to the left. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, in learning history, like he wasn't taking humanities classes and African American studies and women's studies. He went there, and then he was taking like tech classes there, anyways, too, or something. But anyways, he ends up dropping out of there and going to some technical school. Was it electricity or something? Like, whatever it is. So. Right now, the narrative that the left is trying to make is that he got radicalized in college. So I'm seeing it out. And what I like to do is try to find...
You mean that the right is trying to make?
Yeah, the right is... I'm sorry. The right is trying to make is that he was radicalized to the left, is what I was trying to say.
But again, where there's nothing...
There's nothing to indicate that.
Indicating that at all.
Right. In college...
Now, again, maybe they'll dig up something, but there's nothing showing at this point.
There's nothing showing at this point.
Even how he did it... the shell casings themselves it had markings on them that are apparently classic things that you would know about and use if you were part of the far right wing online like Reddit and 4chan communities.
And these very small, even beyond the dark web, like gaming games where it's just small groups. And Discord is a place they do that stuff too. But anyways,
not surprising, yeah.
What was I going to say? So here they are, right? So here they are saying that he's radicalized, but there's nothing to indicate that. And then they're also saying that his roommate was transitioning, and there's nothing. And they're saying that it's an unidentified source from the sheriff's department. which once again, it's all hearsay. So, you know, I don't know if any of this is true. Go ahead.
Well, just that when you mentioned that, unfortunately, we have to point out what the sheriff himself said, which is kind of a pants down moment, metaphorically speaking. The sheriff, when they announced who the shooter was, literally came on camera and said, "Oh, I was praying that it wouldn't be one of our own." But it's what?
The governor, not the sheriff.
No, that was the sheriff.
Oh, that was the sheriff.
That was the sheriff. And he basically, his words. I'm not.
I think they both might have said.
Or they might have both said the same thing. And this is not verbatim. This is kind of paraphrasing. But he basically said, "Oh, I was praying he wouldn't be one of our own. I was praying he would be on the left or a minority or this, that, or the other thing. But it looks like he was one of our own, and I don't even know what to think about that." Kind of. That was his message, and wow. That just.
So you know where these people are coming from, right? And I'll just throw this in real quick too. I was going to say it later, but this is a good point to put this in. So what's her? One of these people, God, I'm horrible with names. She says, when it first happened, bring back the death penalty. We need, vengeance. Find out who the guy is. What's the next message? Charlie Cook would want them to be redeemed. Hopefully they'll find their Savior, Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah, wow. Well, talk about an about face. Freaking about face.
So you can see these people for who they are. 1 minute they're saying, Chicago's going to know what war means. The next minute they're saying, tone down the violence. When it's back at them. But then we're going to get to this thing about this dark web stuff and this kid. So, yes, I don't know if that's true or not. So then the implication there would be that he got this roommate who converted him to hating Charlie because he's anti-trans. And they're trying to say that he was having an affair with this person or something. But there's nothing yet to say that's true or not true that I've come across. And I was looking up just a couple hours ago. It's still hearsay.
And I haven't looked up much, but I've been in conversations with people who have been
and
scouring
the people who
for
said this are from like the Post and from Fox News. So take it for what it's worth. The vast majority of times they say things that aren't true. Sometimes they do say shit that's true. So I'm going to wait.
But the point right now is they're saying it, and they haven't been able to provide any sources to back up what they're saying.
Right, just saying unidentified.
Yeah.
So if this turns out to be true, there may be an element there. It doesn't make what he did right, or like it
doesn't change things a whole lot.
Okay, actually. It doesn't change things a whole lot because this is what I'm going to get to about this kid. But then the next theory I'm going to go on, which is probably more plausible, the way it's looking, but things could change, and I need to learn more about this stuff. But from my understanding, from what the different people that are that age group that are saying online, and what certain influencers are saying that understand this culture, this dark web culture, is that if you go deep into these chat rooms and stuff, there's this thing beyond the red pill, like the black pill, and it's like pure nihilism. And that their whole premise is to create chaos, like an anarchist would, and shooting Archduke Ferdinand. They're just trying to usher in the destruction of society, as a game, just to sit back and watch. Kind of like a Charlie Manson thing.
Right.
So that's how dark this stuff gets when you get into these dark web things. It's beyond the red pill into the black pill. Because in the red pill, they want to take over government. They just want to, become on top and all this. They don't want any of it. And that could be the motivation here, because if you look at the casings, the shell casings, and look up, what those things exactly were on the phone.
Yeah.
So because I know one of them was, because I don't want to get these wrong.
Well, it was related to like Lolita culture and stuff.
I don't know about that. But
I'm looking at it.
It's this gaming. There's this furry.
No, it's not. It's not furry. It's the. Anyways, I'm looking it up.
Yeah. So there's this online thing where you can like be an animal and stuff, and one of them, the ooh thing, is from that. But I can't remember the whole phrase in its entirety. But it's like. One of them was a Bella Ciao, which is a anti-fascist song in Italy, I believe. Not Spain, but Italy. And the other one was Eat This Fascist or something like that. So, look it up so you can get the exact things. The other one was pointer directions for like some kind of a bomb that, in one of these games. And then there's the ooh one. So do you want me to look that up for you?
Okay, so the first one, or one of them, is up arrow, right arrow, 3 down, which is a reference to certain video games.
Well, it's just one video game.
Well, one specific video game. Yeah.
Does it
and
tell
then
you there?
It's Helldivers 2,
Yeah,
which
Helldivers
I was
2.
not familiar with.
Yeah.
And then the next one is what you and I were both talking about, which is the Bulges Woo-Woo, which is Troll.
Bulges, ooh, and then what's the next?
Which is it has its roots in online role-playing communities.
Well, there's one more thing after it. It goes Bulges, ooh, what's this?
Right.
But
I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why they didn't write that, but you are correct.
Bulges, ooh, what's this? And what that is goes back to its original reference to trans. Bulges, meaning the bulge in their pants and their throat. Ooh, woo, like ooh, what's
like we
this?
caught you, or like look
ooh,
at this. Yeah.
Look at this. So, but then within this, I don't get to this culture about how they're very ironical and cryptic, and then they use
is especially true in the third one, the Bella Ciao.
The Bella Ciao, which then got adopted
by which is a reference to the Italian song adopted by the anti-fascists during World War II.
Right, but also adopted by these far right people in the that movement, Fuentes movement.
Nick Fuentes, yes,
which is Groper,
which is itself could be considered a fascist movement. So yeah,
right. But they're using it ironically because
right.
if you understand this Groper language, they adopt these things and reverse them. The whole thing is about punking people and confusing them. They're very childish. What else? Hold on, this Fuentes. And then the last one said, if you read this, you're gay. It's literally like South Park punking somebody.
Like Cartman. Think Cartman.
Yeah, think Cartman. It's just literally punking people. So it's cryptic on purpose to confuse. So who the fuck? Anti-fascists do this? Like, what's this? Ooh, bulges. Ooh, what's this? That's like going back to D's nuts.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, only like you said, more cryptic.
More cryptic.
Most people can. Yeah,
but people who are in this culture understand what this kid is doing. We don't. This makes no sense because then they're going to try to apply it to things it doesn't apply to. If it did go down this rabbit hole, and then to the ultimate rabbit hole of this black pill culture.
Well, and obviously we're saying that this wasn't done by somebody on the left, but hypothetically, if it were, I would expect that they would be pretty close.
Way more direct.
Way more direct.
A lot more mature about it. I'm going to get to this now. I'm going to try to wrap this up because we're already getting in here late, but like 20 minutes in.
Yeah, it's right about.
But so here's this guy. Is that the case? Maybe. Could be. I think maybe it could head that way, and it could head that. Maybe he did run into a roommate, something flipped. But like this goes back to that Luigi thing. That dude's shit was incoherent too. Because if you read his manifesto, you're like, shooting a CEO doesn't make sense if you read what he just wrote there. Like he was kind of against it. You get my point.
Yeah.
It was like, so it could have been one
of
these
things. The difference between Luigi and this right now is that a lot of people with Luigi wanted to interpret things in a way that lionized the Luigi as like, okay, we might not agree with who he was at all, but we're standing by what he did. And
that doesn't make sense to me either.
Well, it might not make sense, but it's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
That's not happening here with Kirk. The closest thing we're happening to Kirk is people saying, I don't agree with what happened, but at best I'm indifferent to his being gone. Just like we're good riddance. Not I'm glad of how it happened.
Not
celebrating, but fine, one less asshole.
Right. So if that is the case, then not surprising either. Not surprising. But I just want to go back to his upbringing though, and the upbringing of Luigi and all these other people. They're far right. They're far right. So this violence, this culture, this society that goes back to the beginning of this country, of this racism and bigotry and hatred being levied at people, and that the ultimate answer is always violence, doesn't stem mainly from the left, which are more empathetic, constantly bombarded with empathy is bad. You know, you can have pity on people, but don't empathize. You can look down at the poor and say, "Oh, you poor, pitiful people," but don't you dare have their feelings or incorporate their feelings into yours. So that's what he was raised with. That's what he was raised with. So even if he got some kind of indoctrination on the left at the very last second, he was drawing upon that mindset when he did what he did. Is my, you know, not somewhat studied understanding of psychology. You know, I don't have a degree, but shit, man, I've read shit tons and been through shit tons, so I have a pretty good understanding.
Well, and because the general
read a lot about you know everything, every angle from it, from neuroscience to psychology to psychiatry and all sorts of things and backgrounds and you know different therapies and things that I'm very, very familiar with. So this is my thing: is that he went far right into nihilism, and just wanted to punk people and show off to his friends. I shot Charlie Kirk, told you I'd do it. You didn't think I'd do it, did you? Or he was radicalized at birth with this stuff, and then when it came time to do something, he had that background. And that my interpretation generally from the left is, there's nothing as far left as like anarchist here. There's anti-fascist, which is not an anarchist, who will burn down a building or something. But they don't go shoot people. They don't go shoot people in generally. They're not violent in that way. Usually they're more understanding, and they do nonviolent protests, and they do sit-ins, and they do boycotts, and they do other things that they just don't engage. Or like Yassarian, they just leave. They just leave the country.
And when
you know Yassarian from Catch-22 at the end.
Oh, okay.
When he's just like, if I can't change the corrupt, insane system that's trying to kill me, the only thing I can do is to leave and be a beacon of light for others to follow. Mm-hmm. Because at the end, you know, he knew about this guy, Snowden, was it? Oh, no, Snowden was
that was much later, yeah.
So the guy, there was this myth about this guy who had gotten in a raft and left to Switzerland or Sweden or something, or some neutral country. Yeah. And that's what he was going to do. And then that was always in his mind the whole time. So at the end, he was, you know, the only sane thing to do was to get out, because he couldn't help anyone and he couldn't save himself, and all he could be was a beacon of light of hope for others. You know, so anyways, I'm going off on a tangent here. So that was is to disengage. But that's one thing, you know, in this country, like some people just need to leave. Because they're in danger, you know? And leaving would be an act of defiance and saying the only way is to get out of here because we can't change it at this point. There's just nothing that can be done. All hope is lost. You know, if it becomes a situation like Yassarian was in Catch-22, which I don't think we're there yet. But, I mean, obviously that's the extreme level of, like, absurdity and chaos to where the only sane thing to do is leave.
Well, the less extreme situation that we're already finding ourselves in is the level of not just legal immigration or illegal, but also just tourism is down like 90% or something. I mean, it's ridiculous at how much of a hit we've taken, and I don't blame anybody, but it's.
Back to my point. My point being is, generally, people on the left don't do that. And when they're saying that people on the left are being hateful, they're just being reactive to abuse and calling people out on abuse. I don't think I don't think they say. I'm always saying you here on this thing, and it's like, I'm just kind of like talking out to some people that probably are never going to watch this, and if they do, they're probably going to. And can you delete comments on here?
Yes.
Just delete that shit. Don't even bother responding. Don't do anything with those. Just delete them and report them. So I don't want to hear about it. And that's not, look, I made that mistake. I went online and I made a comment somewhere, and I went against my own best judgment. Somebody had written something about that was so ridiculous, and I was pointing out the irony of it. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what Charlie Kirk did. You wouldn't believe it. They were posting my picture, saying they're going to come get me.
The term is dox, and they're doing it left and right.
They were going to dox me and all this. And I said, for what? For pointing out the obvious? Like, I thought Kirk was about free speech. And now you're telling me I can't say that he was spitting out hate speech, and now you're like, you know, so you're saying they didn't understand the hypocrisy. And like, why was I even trying? Why was I even trying? It was so stupid. I shouldn't have done it. Like, so yeah, will they put me, like, I don't know, maybe. So But it's ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. So yeah, we have our platform. I'll talk here. Anybody wants to come in here and talk shit, bye. I'm not going to talk to you. And I'm just not going to go on these things because it's pointless. Like I said that so many times in the past. Don't talk to these people. They're brain dead. Now there are a few individuals I still engage with because I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because they're working on things and that they can see the light. And I've gotten more and more aggressive and not allowing them. Look, and my general attitude for things like that is, if you push, they're going to recoil. Some people are not in a position to understand anything you're saying. They just need some companionship. They just need you to sit there with their pain and suffering, and that's all they can do. It's all you can do for them. But when they're doing things that are actively engaged in harming people, I'm sorry, but that's when I have to put the foot down. I know unconditional love should be unconditional, and I know that this is a personal thing on every level, but when you're dealing with somebody who's harming you or someone else, sometimes the only thing you can do is get away or call it out or have them arrested or whatever the case might be. Even that dad's father knew that.
Yeah.
And that kid's father knew that. Yeah.
Well, at the risk of repeating myself, let me say what I know I've said other places. Maybe I didn't say it on this video, but I don't agree with what happened to Charlie. But Charlie, if he were alive, would have agreed with what happened to Charlie.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's true. If you look at how he described things phenomenologically,
that happened to Peter Thiel when he was presented with a question once about certain. I forgot exactly what the topic was, and he had a hem and haw because it was killing billionaires. And he's like, why? Because he is one, and he knows that his theory would have him because he had just spouted out all this shit, right? The guy said, "Well, then you think it's okay to kill billionaires?" Then? And then he could not fucking answer because he knew he was trapped in a corner because he, under his own logic, he's the dead man. But you're right there. You're right there. But like I said, the irony, the hypocrisy, the insanity of all this, and that it was probably this could have been this far right nihilist who was just trying to usher in the end times. Is what it could be, or he might have got radicalized at the very end to the left. But it was the radicalization from the start that got him to where he is. What do you want to say?
Trying to think. I was going to make some general statement about how on the left, it's almost doctrinaire at this point that you can do everything Steve mentioned, boycott, write letters, blah, 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 blah. But if you were talking about actual, owning a weapon, learning martial arts, anything like that, those tools are supposed to be used as some form of self-defense. You do not respond with those tools.
Right. You don't go out and instigate.
You're right.
It's going to be counterproductive. They're goading you. If you fall for it, it's going to have the opposite effect. Look what happened to Charlie here. Look what the effect was. It didn't work. We haven't. Look, at what point do you have to defend yourself? I don't know. That is a personal question that I can't even answer. And does it have to be somebody with a gun in your face?
I don't know. But again, there's a difference between defense at that point,
right?
And you're actively saying, "Hey, somebody did or said something against me or mine, right, and I'm going to go retaliate."
That's not. You got to be strategic. Yeah. You have to be extremely strategic in what you're doing here, and like you said, the very last resort.
And you can't think that way. You can't encourage others to think that way. If you think we're doing that, we're not. So just don't.
Right. Shit. But anyways, Nick Fuentes went on and said all that shit too, because he's like, "Oh shit, I could be next." Because one of the Charlie people who might be clued in on this, who thinks that he did this, could come after him.
Oh yeah.
So he's on there going, "No, stop it, stop it." So I think everybody needs to say stop it. Everybody call a timeout.